Hello there, people of YouTube. This is Joltster109, and I am going to be bringing you another session of Jolt Listens. This is Awoken, and it's a sequel, sort of, to, what was it called? Rainbow Factory. Yeah. I don't know what it's about, to be totally honest. All I know is that has something to do with like a worker there that's dealing with the fact that he did all this shit. By the way, in case you haven't seen it already, I already already reacted to the Rainbow Factory during Halloween for the 7 Lost Nightmares on the Lost Narrators channel. So that's a thing I did. So if you want to go check that out, you can go ahead. But this is Awoken, and let's check it out. So, thank God it's not as long, I think. Let me just quickly check. Oh, well, it's still pretty long. Oh, God. I thought it was like 20 minutes. Alright. Hold on. Let me just... Cut this out, me. Oh, God. Alright. So... Oh, my God. I'm going to be cutting it really close. Because, I don't... Oh, my God. Something's happening later today. I don't know if I have enough time to do it, so... Because of this. God. Why are they always so long? It's like 38 minutes. Anyways, I'm just going to go jump right into it. So, here we go, guys. Awoken, Part 1 by Scribbler. In 3, 2, 1, go. No. God. Hold the... Why you do this to me, computer? 3, 2, 1, go. Thank you. God. Just cooperate with me.
Ponytails. Read by Scribbler.
Oh boy. This is during Halloween too. Like this 2015's Halloween. It's not 2016. This is my first video of 2016, by the way. Month of Macabre. Yeah, this is like Halloween. That was very spoopy. Oh,
I'll pass this time, I swear. Get off me.
This is sad.
Somebody help.
This is sad. All the memories are coming back to me now.
Good luck on your graduation test, son. I'm sure you'll do fine. Your dad and I'll be waiting for when you get home.
The revelation came to me rather spontaneously. A second ago, I'd been smiling at the ceiling, musing that I was one very lucky pony. I was alive, for starters. I was alive and not down in the gloomy depths of a rainbow factory, shivering with fear and cold, pressed against panicked fillies and colts as I choked on the gloom and oppressive misery that seemed to hang about its perimeter around the clock. But at what cost? It was that notion, a simple, self-challenging question which had brought about my suddenly feeling of insecurity. I didn't usually ask myself questions like that. It was safer not to think that way. Better just to count your blessings and remind yourself you were serving a greater cause, and to think about something else. That was what I did. Except that this time I couldn't. My mind kept circling back to this single, simple question. At what cost? Deeply perturbed, I let my mind wander, searching for something I could use in defense of my reasoning. I was lucky. I was one of the fortunate ones. I had made it. I was better off than the ponies who failed the test and came here to the Rainbow Factory. The Rainbow Factory. The test. Flight school. Flunking out.
Yeah.
I still remember when I stepped hoof into the ominous basement of the Rainbow Factory for the first time. It was dark down there, and I had been lost to something far past fear. I'd been petrified. Around me, like dumb cattle, my fellow flunkouts were herded from the cramped hallway and out underneath the large domed roof. The metallic tinge of blood, heated sweat, and bitter fear all came together at once to lace the still air. Distant screams echoed off the concave roof, mixing with whimpers from my classmates and the industrial noises surrounding us. I'd never known any place in all of Equestria with so many huge machines like this. The first thing I noticed was the biggest machine, cylindrical at the bottom but then tapering off far above my head. The stout top was surrounded by a gangplank that circled the machine once and then divided in different directions. We were assembled so that we could look up the side of the contraption, up to the circular gangplank.
Quiet!
For a single moment, there had been silence, or more so an absence of voices as even our panicked whispers died. Only the loud clang of hooves on metal could be heard growing closer above us. We didn't know why we were there. None of us understood what was going on. And then, she appeared.
Shut up! All of you!
At the time, I had no clue of the gender of the trim Pegasus above in a full bodysuit and hood. I just got a sense of presence, as if this pony's importance was a smell in the room. For a few seconds, the Pegasus and the gangplank looked amidst the audience. She then had spoken. Her voice was rough and authoritative, but vigorous with youth. She had given us a lecture on how worthless we were, the lowest of the low, the failures, verbally beating us down like we didn't already hate ourselves for failing the test. I remember more than one Coulter filly literally falling to their knees in tears of fear and shame. The moment she pulled back her hood, I felt like my eyes were going to fall out of my head when I saw the cyan face, the flowing rainbow mane, the determined pink eyes. A single thought raced through my mind.
Is that Rainbow Dash?
Yep.
Rainbow Dash, the record breaker. Rainbow Dash, the loved one. Rainbow Dash, the head of the weather team. The pony who encouraged everyone to do their best and be everything that they could be and never give up. She was the one telling us we were worthless and should be ashamed that we were even born. It just didn't make sense. What was going on?
As flyers, you're all useless. You couldn't pass the exam and our flock has no use for weaklings who will only make us less than we should be. But you can serve another purpose. You can help us fulfill the destiny that Princess Celestia herself gave the Pegasi a millennia ago, and help us to make rainbows
Which is
here
still
in the Rainbow
bullshit.
Factory!
It was when she kindly treated us with a demonstration of why we were here that my confusion gave way to the sort of fear one might feel when they were alone in the ever-free forest, surrounded by flickering shadows and noises, chilled to the bone and with monsters getting closer in the underbrush. I clearly remember the mood of the crowd shifting deeper into panic as one of our numbers was separated off and dragged away, struggling by a pair of hooded guards.
What's going on? What are you doing? Let me go! Please, I didn't do anything. I'll take the test again. I'll do better. I'll pass this time, I swear. No! Get off me, please! Some pony, help!
Spectra is pure essence of color. We Pegasi were charged by Princess Celestia to look after the weather of Equestria. But making rainbows requires Spectra, the purest essence of color. And you can't separate pure color from what holds it. So instead, you have to get at it another way.
We were penned in by further
What?
guards as the colt was tied up with a set of chains that had descended from a pulley system above the machine. It was total panic, and we had to get out. But where could we run? Where could we hide? The hallway behind us had already been excluded from the chamber by a set of sturdy wooden doors. And even if we could get out, we didn't even know how we had gotten here. We may just fly around in circles until we were caught and brought back.
Somebody, please. Don't let them do
I remember having to sit there, frozen in panic and despair, as that orange colt was pulled up to the sky, given one last chance at being off the ground. For a moment, he had stayed suspended over the machine, wings fluttering in a manner that projected his burning desire to get away. He'd been struggling terribly, screaming for help, screaming at whatever he saw at the top of the structure. It was the darkest minute of my life up to that point, and the longest. My jaw had gone slack, and my heart began beating as fast as that Pegasi's wings.
I could fly up there. I have wings. I could go up and pull him free.
I had buried the thought. It was something I got very, very good at as time went on.
Ponies are full of spectrum. They're the best source in all of Equestria. But who would ever sacrifice ponies' lives for rainbows? No one would. Not that is, unless the ponies in question have no other function to serve. Not if those ponies are failures. Too useless to pass a simple flying exam to prove their worth to the flock. Pegasi are in charge of the weather, so unicorns and earth ponies have no place contributing to our sacred duty. But if there are Pegasi who are better off dead than alive, well then, who better to use for Spectra? So the best Pegasi engineers invented this machine to extract Spectra, but they found it gives best results when the ponies they extract it from are full of life. Colors are always so much more vibrant than when we use corpses.
And then, it happened.
Please.
The thing that both scarred me beyond repair and filled me with something stronger than hate.
Oh.
The chains began to pull their captive in all directions,
Please.
splaying his four hoofs and both wings apart. We could see his joints straining as his limbs were locked into unnatural positions.
I hate listening to
We
this.
find the machine works better if the Pegasi's wings and ribs are broken first, so they can't wreck the process by trying to get away.
Celestia, this hurt.
The chains began to twist, as if attempting to wring out the colt like a piece of wet laundry. Quickly, his hollers of panic turned into screeches of suffering as pain washed over him. His shoulder erupted in blood and bone. The chain had all but torn the leg right off. A loud cracking noise signaled his breaking ribs, leaving him looking very similar to a bloody, dripping ragdoll.
What a way to
Eyes
start
staring
off
agonized
2016.
helplessness As, with a hiss, the clamps around his hooves opened. He fell into the top of the machine, where his convulsing body was ground down into a bloody pulp.
It's affecting me, man. This is affecting me. Stupid viewfinder, man.
I was relieved when the screaming finally stopped.
Woo!
A humming had started up in the body of the machine, the turning of gears, the occasional puff of steam. My attention had been drawn down to the tube off to the side, filling with orange, viscous liquid. It accompanied 6 others. Red, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The colors of the rainbow. After a while, and to our collective horror, 3 of the 7 tombs began to vibrate profusely. Then gradually, a flow of according colors was spewed out into a dozen medium-sized vats. When the vats were full, a group of younger Pegasi, about my age at the time, shuffled out from the shadows and took them away. What came after the demonstration was nothing short of a panic. The audience erupted, some flying into the air, others just straight out galloping for escape, all looking for an exit, all failing at the end. Soon the riot had been returned to order. Broken. Hollow.
Welcome to the Rainbow Factory, failures!
I think it was about that time when I realized that there was no glimpse of hope left for me. There was no hope left for any of us.
This is a co-worker, right? Because it sounds like he was a student that failed the test. Unless, I don't know, something happened. I don't know.
I rolled over in my bed. My head was buzzing again, and my downy mattress had acted like a sponge. I was wallowing in my own sweat. The origins of my experience in the Rainbow Factory were nothing to be happy about. That period of time had really bucked me in the head. I gazed dully at the papers up on the wall of my bedroom. The tally chart. The statistics page. It all came to me in high resolution. Death had changed for me since that day when I first encountered it. It had become a statistic, something to be tallied and occasionally bragged about when you hit or exceed your targets. 74. That's how many lives I had ended by the evening I started asking myself stupid questions. The blood stains would no longer wash from my hooves no matter how hard I scrubbed. Or maybe that had been the case right from the first life I took. I had felt worse the first time, to be sure. It was easier to keep telling myself how good I had it, and thank the skies I wasn't number 75. Somehow, it had happened. I didn't die when all the odds were stacked against me. For weeks after my initial arrival to the Rainbow Factory, I was not picked to be drained. My jobs were many and gruesome. They put us all to work. Not every pony could cope with cleaning up the excess blood that would overspill as the machines ground up its victims. That meant transporting the filled spectra vats to the holding chambers. Worse was cleaning out the grate where the excess body parts that didn't get completely pulped collected. I remember once finding a pale purple hoof that ended in a protruding mess of meat and dirt-encrusted gore, and realizing it was a filly I had kissed. I recognized a small birthmark on the bottom of her hoof. She had put that hoof against my cheek and wished me good luck when we were in the line to take our final flight school test. And now I was picking what remained of her from a sewer grate. I threw up until my insides hurt. Then wiped my mouth, took a breath,
Holy shit.
and cleaned up my vomit along with everything else. I told myself I was the lucky one. It hadn't been her finding my hoof after I got fed into the machine. When I wasn't on the floor working, I was in the holding chamber with every pony else. Ironically enough, it was because of my containment in those filthy cells that I eventually ended up gaining my freedom. Let me explain. Though I've never been told, I imagine the reason why I ended up being drafted into the permanent working force at the factory was due to how aggressively dedicated I was to survival, amplified 100 times over due to the living environment. At first I fought only to defend myself and the food I was eating. They shoved meals in bowls, one for each pony in the cells, but frequently there were fights over food. Bigger colts and fillies shoved aside smaller ones, or those who had been injured during the final exam. I let myself be pushed aside for less than a week before I started fighting back. I wanted to live. I didn't want to die.
Please! All of you!
The hell?
Please! All of you! We have to stop fighting each other! We're better than this. If we all band together and share the food out equally, we could...
Shut up! It's every pony for themselves. You can choose starvation if you prefer that.
Please! This is so wrong! We can't let them do this to us! We're better than them! No! Stop, please!
I told you to shut up!
I never went without food. I wasn't the biggest pony in there, but the others learned to be wary when I came near at feeding time. But then I began to fight for the sake of fighting. I found that the longer I remained in the damn building, the angrier I got. Unable to take my rage out on the ponies who were keeping me there, the pressure just kept building up until one dreary day. I blew up at a younger mare who shared my cell. I had lost practically all my friends then, whether to the machines or because they have become frightened of what I have become. Any pony who says they'd remain calm and level-headed in that kind of situation is talking a load of bull. You don't know until you've lived it. I never would have thought I would be the kind of pony to do what I did. Not until I did it. I had started my slow change into a monster. I started finding comfort in harming others. It broke the frustration inside me and gave me relief from the buzzing, screaming tension in my head. At first it was minor fights. Throw 2 good kicks, maybe a punch or 2, and then we both call it a night and retreat to lick our wounds. However, then it turned into something more along the lines of brawling. I'd approach the weaker colts and fillies and beat them up without provocation. Or I'd stoke up fights with bigger ponies so they'd let rip at me and I'd be justified in making them eat their own teeth. Making others suffer dulled my own misery. The ones who tried to flee, I wouldn't let escape until they were bloody and begging. I just kept upping the ante, raising the stakes higher and higher, until the one day I did the unthinkable and killed a pony. It was my first murder. I clearly remember how the fight went. I was working with another Pegasus on the factory floor, our wings tightly bound to our sides, moving some freshly squeezed batches of Spectre to the holding chambers. She had slipped on something, spilling the vat of indigo. I tried to save it, but it just slopped all over me, marking me as responsible for the spillage too, even though it wasn't my fault. The commotion would have definitely put me in the next line for the Pegasus device. The fact that after all this time I'd been killed because of a stupid mistake from some pony else drove me rabid with anger.
Do you realize what you've done?
I'm sorry.
The weeks and weeks of my emotional suppression came out in one explosive event. As the filly got up to say sorry, I hoofed her across the face. She flipped backwards, landing with a sickening crunch on her left wing. Her screams for mercy fell dead on my ears.
Oh my god!
I used both of my rear hooves and my front ones to hit her repeatedly. She didn't even try to fight back. Instead, she kept flapping her forelegs at me ineffectively. At one point, a shrill screeching made me stop. It sounded very much like the noise that orange colt had uttered as he was being run out all those weeks ago. As quickly as anger had come over me, despair washed through me, sweeping aside my rage with the realization of what I had just done, what I had been doing each time I started a fight. I was no better than the Pegasi factory workers who were keeping us here. Shocked and appalled, I fell to the floor. I'd seen the guards beginning to surround the two of us in a tight circle, and covered my head, waiting for it. I wondered who'd fetch my leftover body parts from the grate. But death didn't come. As the minutes passed, I drew together enough courage to look up from the ground to the assembled Pegasi. The overmare's vibrant eyes glazed back at me. I felt my heart contract as a cold fear settled in.
Get up!
Shakily, I stood up, willing my hooves to support my teetering body, which was covered now in bloody indigo. In Rainbow Dash's presence, I felt small and insignificant.
What are you going to do with me?
She responded with an answer I had not expected.
Kill her!
She inclined her head at the sobbing filly on the floor, but kept looking at me in the eyes.
Oh my fucking
I
god.
looked back, willing myself to maintain the
This
gaze.
shit is gonna affect
Her
me,
glittering
man.
eyes were stunningly beautiful. They reminded me immediately of the roses that grew up on my family's cabin, which I would pick each year on Mother's Day, and put in a piece of pottery I'd made in secret. Before all this, I'd nursed dreams of being a potter someday. Maybe after I'd retired from the weather team, with a nice fat pension and some nice fat grand foals. Her eyes' beauty, however, was confined only to those rings around her pupils. The rest of her eyes were being eaten away by madness. They were bloodshot and burning with something I couldn't quite determine. I was so tired, so confused, and so afraid that I could only yank up words from my memory to see if one fit. Curiosity, maybe? Pride? Expectation? Stress? Humor?
Look into her eyes. Look and see the fear as you snuff out her worthless life. Do it now and prove to me you're worth my decision.
Decision? What decision?
She smiled secretly, and then motioned with her chin at the sobbing filly.
Do it now!
She gave me the taser that previously clipped her leg.
Use this, or can't you take orders? I don't have much use for ponies who can't take orders. They're only useful for Spectra.
I grabbed the device and switched it on the way I'd watched the guards do. It came to life with sparkling blue energy. The sobbing filly scrambled to get away from me, but I put one forehoof on her chest and sat astride her, using my greater weight to keep her in place. She struggled, eyes glued to the sparkling taser.
She shouldn't have gambled with your life by being so clumsy. Didn't she know what was at stake? You did, though. That's why you got angry. You were willing to punish her for her mistake. Pin her down! No. Put it in her mouth. It's the closest way to her brain.
All my attention had shifted onto the heaving Pegasus beneath me. I didn't say sorry. I was beyond sorry at that point. I could tell this was a test. I was not about to fail another one. I stared into her eyes, willing myself to feel nothing. And there, surrounded by masked figures, I prized her mouth open, shoved the taser down her throat, and pressed the button to end her life in a haze of smoking flesh and the crack of an exploding skull spewing out cooked brain matter.
Oh my god. Oh my god, thank you. Jesus fucking Christ. Finish line. Rhythm sound. This shit's gonna affect me, man. I just finished listening last week to a Puppeteer of Fame. I need to listen to something sweet and heartfelt and good feels, not gore, not bullshit like this. Oh my god, I need a damn break. Scooby's gonna talk now, right? Man, she talks for a long time.
That was Awoken, Part 1. It was written
Alright, I'm gonna
by
mute you
Sergi,
again, Scribs.
with
Sorry.
additional material written by
And
Scribbler, and featuring the voice talents of Finish Line as the narrator, Chaotic 7 as
mute. Okay. Oh my god. Also, there's another reason I'm gonna mute her here because I actually have to go in a few minutes somewhere, so I'm gonna get ready for that. What a way to start off 2016, huh? Guys, when you guys request stuff, I was already gonna be reacting to this anyways. When I saw Scribbler uploading, I was like, this probably looks like a thing I could react to. So I just had it in my watch later for a time, and then when I realized that she finally finished uploading all the parts, I was like, okay, now's a good time to do it. Anyways, my point is, can you guys like suggest me reacting to like something nice and sweet and heartfelt and feels and good time, not bad time? Oh my god, I can't. This stuff's gonna affect me, man. Why? Why? Oh god, why? Ah, where's my water? Ah. Scribbler wrote this with someone else? Jesus. The fanfic community in the Brony fandom is twisted as hell. Oh my god. You know, let me just, before I end it off, I'm gonna say that I actually thought that the pony in the art there was derpy, because because it's gray with blonde. I thought, is that derpy? But no, like when I actually started listening to this, like just now, it's like, oh no, that's a completely different pony. I don't know who it is. They didn't say his name, did he? Did he? He didn't say his name? No, just a random pony, I guess. Unless I totally missed it. But yeah, I thought it was derpy. That's actually what I thought this was when I first saw Scribbler upload. Is this like a derpy Grimdark? I don't know, but it's not. It's the Rainbow Factory, so. Oh man. Man, she talks for a long time. I actually thought the part 1 was a lot longer than it actually is. Alright, I'm gonna exit that out. I'm sorry, Scribbler, in case you're watching this, but frankly, I'm on a time crunch right now because I'm about to go somewhere, and you sometimes don't actually talk about the fic. You like update your viewers, which is fine. But I'm just saying, like for me, doing reactions, that's not really what I'm trying to watch. I'm trying to watch, the actual story play out. So nothing against you. I'm just saying, in case you're watching. So. Sorry, Scribbler. I love you. Okay, I'm done. Stay tuned for part 2, guys. Part 2 should be up on Wednesday, part 3 on Friday, and then I'm going to continue for part 4 and 5 next week. And then on Friday that week, I'm going to see if I can upload another reaction. Yeah, so. Oh, I need games to play again, man. I need games to play. Alright. Stay tuned. I'll see you on the next part. Goodbye, everybody. Oh my god. My soul is gonna just give out one day, I swear.